welcome and thank you for joining us today for our first King County Cities Climate Collaboration Summit for 2015. I'm really happy to welcome you to the Weyerhaeuser King County Aquatic Center. We're going to have a great morning today learning about all the things that we are doing and planning to do to address climate change in King County. But I want to talk a little bit about this particular facility. Many of you know that this facility was opened in 1990 for the Goodwill Games. And many of us think about swimming as being a summertime activity. But actually this facility closes down for a big part of the summer months because that's when we do all of our maintenance to get ready for all the swim teams and the swim lessons and the national and international swim events that we host here throughout the year. So it's very important for us to actually be ready for all those winter months for all of those activities. We use a lot of energy at this facility. For those of you who are on the tour, you know that running all the pool systems, keeping all the pools at their proper temperatures, and all the ventilation systems that we have here to make it comfortable to host all these events throughout those many months takes a lot of energy. And so we were very excited this year to partner with the Puget Sound Energy and the Department of Commerce, and I think we have a representative, Pat Gibbon, here from the Department of Commerce. Thank you for joining us today, our partner, to really help us fund both with loans and grants the work that you saw. We made significant improvements to our boiler systems, as well as building the solar panels that many of you saw up on the roof systems. And we're very excited to be able to green this facility as we make it more efficient than it has been. So this system that you saw will produce more than 100,000 kilowatt hours of greenhouse gas-free electricity every year. And when we look at combining all the improvements that we made with the solar panels and the efficiency systems, we estimate that these projects will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by over 500 metric tons per year, which is the equivalent of taking about 100 cars off the road every year. So this is an example of the types of things that we as local governments want to do in our region. It's an example of the commitments that we're making to reduce greenhouse gases in King County. I think one of the things to me that's very exciting as a native Washingtonian to see as part of this project is this is actually the largest installation of solar panels in the state of Washington for panels that were actually manufactured here in the state of Washington. And so what that means is that we can show how we can get green power and we can get green jobs with these projects. So it's an example, and I know that we have many more to come. So thank you all for joining us. We're going to move on to, we have several speakers that we're going to hear from today. I do want to recognize some of our elected officials that won't be coming up to speak that are here today. I think we have Normandy Park Councilmember Stacy Jenkins here. Stacy, thank you. Shoreline Deputy Mayor Chris Egan, I didn't see him yet, but is he here? No. Nope, not yet. Issaquah Councilmember Mary Lou Pauley. Over here in the back, thank you for joining us. And I know I also saw City of Duval Councilmember Jason Walker here. Jason, there you are, great. Did I miss anybody? All right, thank you so much. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce my boss, who I admire greatly, and that is King County Executive Dow Constantine.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks to everyone for joining us here today as we continue to confront climate change in King County. Around the world, across the state, 2014 was the warmest year on record. That makes a staggering 358 consecutive months of above average temperatures in the world. There are some trends we want to continue. Go Seahawks this Saturday. But that is not one of them. And so we are gathered to do what we are able to do, to drive down the causes of climate change and to help prepare our region, our county and our region for what's to come. In our own backyard, where scientists predict increasingly severe rainfall events, We are only just recovering from severe flooding just this past week. And on Monday, I visited communities near Carnation along the Tolt River and the Snoqualmie, where warm rains and snowmelt pushed the river over roads and flooded farms. We cannot wait for action on the federal level, either to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions or to prepare for the impacts of climate change. And many of the solutions must happen at the local level. The good news is solutions can be good for our bottom line and the economy. And just as Christy said, the solar array we see on the outside of this building today, and you're seeing some of the outputs from that here, is 100% made in Washington. It is made with Washington labor, and the profits as well as the taxes on that go directly back into our state. It's an example of how local governments can save money and spur economic development. Now, with completion of all the recent projects here at the Aquatic Center, we're cutting energy costs by nearly $100,000 per year. And across the entire county government, the energy efficiency projects we have completed just since I took office as executive are generating savings of more than $2.7 million per year. We're on track to hit the goal I set this year for reducing King County's energy use by 15% and getting at least half of our energy needs from renewable sources. Now, last year, I called for a commitment to confronting climate change, and I invited our city leaders to join King County in working on this shared issue. But today, through our hard work, we have a formal, shared goal for reducing greenhouse gas emissions across King County. The King County Cities Climate Collaboration, or the K4C for short, now has 12 members. And I want to give a special welcome to our two newest members, the cities of Bellevue and Burien. Welcome. I know that council members Robinson and Tosta will forgive me if I don't give them the secret handshake right out of the gate, but I'm told we do have certificates for them. So I understand that several other cities attending today also plan to join the team, and we want to thank you for that and let you know that we welcome you into this coalition. This is more than a coalition, though. It's about charting a course, using 9 areas of specific action to get us to our ambitious but achievable goals. These commitments, covering diverse issues from recycling to forest protection, have now been signed by King County and the mayors of all 9 founding K4C cities, representing 63% of the county's population. I understand there were many robust discussions among your city councils about why these issues matter. It's good that we're examining these issues, and I want to thank each city council member, each mayor, for truly considering what these commitments mean and then taking a stand for action. It's only by working together that we can make meaningful progress. Only by working together we can make reductions in climate pollution that no one local government can accomplish acting alone. So please join me in welcoming several city representatives to speak about why these joint climate commitments are important to their city and region, starting with Kirkland City Council member Shelley Klobuchar.
Good morning. Well, in the past year or so, at most of our community outreach events that relate to our comprehensive plan, we have been asking our participants to tell us one word that they would use to describe Kirkland. And we've kept track of those words that they've come up with to define themselves. The most frequent words are ones like green, vibrant, livable, and sustainable. Kirkland signed on to this collaboration because it supports the values and the vision that we have of our community, and it is consistent with the ongoing work that we have been doing for a long time now, going back even before We signed the formal commitment in 2005, which was the U.S. Conference of Mayors Climate Protection Agreement. We know that we have to work on this as a region because greenhouse gases don't recognize city boundaries. This is something that we all need to work on together in order to be fully effective. And the K4C lays out a variety of commitments, as the executive mentioned, and I want to share with you a few examples from some of the action that we're taking in these areas. So as far as climate policy, among our legislative priorities for the city of Kirkland, we specifically asked for state and local transportation revenue that supports transit agency funding flexibility, as well as various multimodal safety investments in our community. When we look at transportation and land use, we're working to focus new development in vibrant centers that focus on employment, housing, and services that are close to transit. And we've been very enthusiastic about some very recent plans that would encourage some redevelopment in our Totem Lake Urban Center. This fall, we were very pleased to welcome residents to a transit-oriented development that has 58 affordable housing units in it. It's located just off the 520 freeway in the South Kirkland Park and Ride. In terms of energy supply, we were proud that in 2013, our residents participated in the Puget Sound Energy's Green Power Challenge, and we came in second only to the city of Snoqualmie, and we're not bitter. The prize for second place was a grant of $20,000, which we used to put a solar panel on the roof of our new justice system, and it's kind of a baby compared to the one that's on top here. We're a little jealous. Let's see. In terms of green building and energy efficiency, since 2008, our planning department has given priority status to green permits as a way to encourage participation in our green building program. And after an understandable slowdown during the economic recession, that has picked up again in it's very enthusiastic participation by our developers. You know, I said this is something that these commitments are things that Kirkland has been involved in for a long time. And going back to that's the last century, 1994, Kirkland has held semi-annual recycling events where residents can bring in items such as appliances, tires, mattresses, styrofoam, and electronics. And over the last 2 decades, residents have recycled over 3.4 million pounds of these difficult to recycle materials. Last year, we increased the frequency of our StyroFest events we do that almost monthly, and we have had a diversion of over 600 cubic yards of styrofoam from the landfill to date. Let's see. We are very proud to have one of the highest single-family recycling diversion rates around, and it's supported by a rate structure that encourages our residents to recycle and compost more and thus pay less for their garbage collection. In terms of forests and farming, we're proud to have achieved a 40% tree canopy, and we have a robust program called the Green Kirkland Partnership, which harnesses the power of our community members, just absolute rock star volunteers, and partners like Forterra and Earth Corps to remove invasives and plant native plants, and that restores and maintains the health of our forested areas, which you know is so important as a carbon sink. We have signed an agreement to partner with Seattle Tilth in our historic McAuliffe Park to provide classes and resources to support urban and community gardening. And we have an enthusiastic group of citizens pushing forward with ideas to plant edibles on city property that can be harvested later for community benefit. Finally, let's see. We have the old slogan, membership has its privileges. And I want to tell you that by partnering with other cities, we have been able to save money on a report that we need to do every 3 years that analyzes our citizens' carbon footprint. And by working together, we were able to spend half of what that would normally cost to do a report like that. The K4C commitments that we have signed on to are not simply an aspirational list that's printed on a piece of paper that sits somewhere in our city hall. It is something that is becoming very integrated. Our planning department is currently in the process of enfolding these commitments into a new climate change chapter of our comprehensive plan. And once it's reviewed and approved, this will have the effect of encoding these commitments into our planning DNA in the city. That's very exciting. And so I want to thank each and every one of our partner cities and as well as the county. We are working together with you on all of these efforts, both at the local and the state and the federal level. And through this cooperation and collaboration and sharing innovation, I hope that we can make Kirkland's vision of a green, vibrant, livable, sustainable community a reality for all of us in King County. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kloba. That was a very impressive list of accomplishments. It's also my pleasure to introduce another one of the early signatories of the K4C, and that's the City of Mercer Island, and here with us is Mayor Bruce Bassett.
Good morning. I'm Bruce Bassett, Mayor of Mercer Island. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here this morning and provide a few comments. Mercer Island is proud to have been a founding member of the K4C back in 2011 and very much welcomes the growing participation of the additional cities. So thank you for joining on. As we've seen in recent years, we can expect little progress on greenhouse gas reduction in Washington, D.C., sadly. It's up to the states and increasingly the cities to step up and take action. The local level is also where people are really starting to notice the effects of climate change, with the winter storms, shrinking snowpacks, and landslides, as the executive just mentioned. And as I well know, Mercer Island's 22,000 residents are willing to speak their minds on a wide range of issues. But why not amplify our voice tenfold or more on climate issues by allying with other like-minded cities via an organized platform? For Mercer Island, the goals of the K4C make perfect sense because this is one of the directions we've already begun to steer ourselves towards. Back in 2006, a grassroots effort led the city to include sustainability language in our comp plan. And in May 2007, we committed to a goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 80% below 2007 levels by 2050. Just as King County has. Since that time, we've relied extensively on citizen engagement to keep the issue alive and on the front burner for the general public. And the K4C adds greatly to the visibility of this endeavor. In 2012, we began to pick up speed by winning a PSC Green Power Challenge, increasing by 55% the number of residents who choose to pay a little extra for clean energy. That led to a solar array at our community center in 2013 and even a national recognition by the EPA. Next came a rooftop solar campaign that's produced 45 new installations this past summer. And now in 2015, we're exploring a larger community solar project covering almost all of our city hall. And my point is this: once you commit to carbon reduction at the local level, you'll find that one success leads to another opportunity. And that momentum builds as citizen engagement grows. As time goes on, you begin to contemplate larger and bolder actions. Given our location, we're particularly interested in mass transit issues, as well as energy efficiency measures. And as you may have noted in an op-ed piece not too long ago, removal of coal from PSC's portfolio is something we're particularly interested in trying to advocate for. So I look forward to taking action with all of you on all of these objectives that support all of us. Thank you.
My carpet's trying to get me. Well, I'm thrilled to introduce a real shaker and mover from the city of Tukwila, Council President Kate Kruller.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to see the size of group that we have and the interest that we have in this topic. I look forward to exchanging ideas with you later this morning, but I just wanted to share a couple of comments for the city of Tukwila. As a community along the river banks of the Green River, The city of Tukwila is very mindful of and concerned about the impacts of climate change. With that, the Green Valley itself is a real powerhouse of economics, and with that comes an obligation to take steps to reduce climate change and the impacts it's going to have on our river communities. In 2007, the city of Tukwila adopted a resolution that said we were going to set a goal to reduce our greenhouse emissions by 55% in association with any of our municipal operations. Since that time, we've made great strides in those reductions and towards that target, which is set for prior to the year 2020. We've made energy upgrades in 4 of our city buildings, and the city is one of the first cities in the state of Washington to completely retrofit its streetlights with LEDs. It's making a big difference to us economically. And that's our message. Reducing energy consumption is important in terms of environment, but it's not just that. We're finding out that it's also good for the bottom line. And with that, our energy upgrades have saved and will save our taxpayers money, and it's good because we continue on that adventure by reducing the energy costs. Thank you very much.
You know, all of these cities are very different, and yet they're accomplishing great things. And so I know you'll hear some more from the city of Snoqualmie, Mayor Matt Larson.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to Kirkland for bragging on our behalf for winning the Green Power Challenge. Our solar project, we did put on our community center. It's now twice the size of theirs, but it's still baby compared to this one, but that was pretty exciting for us to do too. I was asked to speak to why we joined the Green Power Challenge. And first of all, I want to acknowledge if you're here this morning, you're part of the choir. And I don't want to preach to the choir, but the fact of the matter, if you're like me, when you go home at night in the quiet hours after you've done all these endeavors, you probably feel despairing at times about, we can get up here and say all the platitudes about all the great stuff we're doing, but I think in those quiet hours we know that what we're doing is profoundly inadequate and still kind of scary in terms of what this global village needs to do to tackle this issue and problem. So the burden on the leadership is, as you all know, we can only go as fast as those we serve. And personally, I want us to go so much faster and get somewhere, do more things radically. But as a mayor, I put that mayor hat on. I can only go as fast as my council is willing to go with me, or as my community is willing to go with me. So the burden on our leadership is to communicate and really hone a message and a convincing message to bring people along faster. And I wanted to cue that up to say that's what's been so powerful and important about these sorts of endeavors. The more we build these coalitions, as the prior speakers spoke to, the more we have a case. If I went to my council prior to, we've had great leadership in the Northwest too, which has been a huge advantage for a small city like Snoqualmie, with Mayor Greg Nichols, Governor Inslee now, Constantine, Ron Sims before him. When I go to my council and my community and say, hey, this climate change thing's a big deal, let's reduce carbon in Snoqualmie, you kind of hear the birds chirping in the room. It's like really, Mayor, you think that Snoqualmie is going to make a huge impact on the global emissions of carbon. But if I go back to them and I can say, hey, we engaged in this U.S. Mayor's Climate Protection Initiative. There's hundreds of mayors. K4C initiative. We've got over a half of the U.S. population now represented in these cities that are on board. You make a compelling case that individual efforts are quite futile, whereas a combined effort is quite powerful. Now I can start making a strong case and to help push that community faster. And I'm convinced that you guys are heroes because you just keep keeping this squirrel cage wheel and keep pounding away at this. It seems futile. I'm convinced that, we keep persistent. Eventually the momentum's going to build. It's going to be like that 100th monkey syndrome, where eventually it's going to just kind of go viral in terms of the efforts. So keep plugging away. I'm rooting for you guys. Small cities, I think it was important. I wanted Snoqualmie to be one of the small cities that stepped up as part of the engagement. I think a lot of people felt this was a big city problem, and those are the ones that have the resources to tackle it. I think it's essential that small cities engage. We represent over half the U.S. population lives in cities of 20,000 population or less. And we're going to have different priorities and strategies. I mean, Snoqualmie is not going to be tackling mass transit and public transportation as one of the major strategies. But we are positioned in a way where we're located, where charging stations or electrification of vehicles makes perfect sense for that to be one of our highest priorities. So small cities are going to have a different set of priorities that we tackle these things. And there's got to be some cities stepping out to lead that, to be able to kind of take that bleeding edge, prove out best approaches, and then use that to pass on to other smaller cities to move along with it. I think we also can be more nimble. There's small cities that are uniquely positioned for certain efforts to be able to politically move that through a city council and to prove it out on a smaller scale and then scale it up when it's proven. And so again, there's a great opportunity with small cities to move in that direction. So specifically for Snoqualmie, what are some of the compelling issues, again, for that leadership message? One is that the Snoqualmie Valley has been one of the most flood-prone communities in the United States, statistically. That's been proven. On the climate change projections, it's also shown that Snoqualmie is one of the most vulnerable for those changes, for not only a more frequent flooding, as the executive pointed out, we saw this past Monday, we kind of dodged a bullet there, but it was an unusual event, but also more severe flooding. We also, in countywide planning policies as well as city policies, we don't think Snoqualmie is the place in terms of building a viable local economy is to build that on big box retail or big outlet malls and so forth. I think logically that, given the spectacular beauty of that valley, this is a place where we want to build it around recreation and tourism. Problem is we can't build tourism on one season of the year, on one summer. And so it's critical to have vibrant other activities like the ski seasons up in the pass. And yet, again, the projections are for drier winters. And we saw that in 2005, and again last year and this year. Although I do want to put out a word of caution, it was pointed out to me that scientifically it may be more, the cause may be more that it's aligned with every time the Seahawks get to the Super Bowl, we've had a dry season. So right now it's looking good for this year. So we'll have to see if that proves out. We might have to rethink that. One other historical piece in Snoqualmie is in 1899, Charles Baker whose dad was involved in the World's Fair that rolled out AC power in Chicago back in the late 1800s and demonstrated AC power. That was employed for the first time worldwide on a large scale, the proving out of AC power as a much more effective method than DC power that required coal plants every mile away from where the use was. From that Snoqualmie Falls power plant. That power plant can now light up 40,000 homes. But the problem is that it's been threatened a number of times that the intake shaft on that has been overwhelmed with flooding. Water has gone down into that shaft and flooded out the chamber and closed down the plant for several weeks, why they have to rebuild and get it started again. And so again, there's a threat to that. The Northwest in general relies heavily on hydropower, a clean source of energy that's been great for us, but it's one that's threatened also by climate projections that show that we're going to have drier seasons and lower flows, and of course generate less power during the summer months. So for that reason, regionally, it should be a big deal to us. And lastly, for me, it was particularly going to the U.S. U.S. Mayor's Initiative that Mayor Nichols did back in 2005. It dawned on me that it was just a smart thing for us to do to get on board efforts like this because it was recognition. We had the unique dynamic in Snoqualmie where we were a city of 1,600 that grew to now 12,000, largely due to a master plan community of Snoqualmie Ridge. And the great thing doing that community is we could employ all the newest thinking about urban design with smart growth, new urbanism, pedestrian-oriented design. We're probably the only city in the whole region that has a fourth utility of a purple pipe irrigation system that reclaims water and sends it up to water golf course and the parks and all that. And I could go on with a whole litany of really environmentally friendly benefits that hit a lot of the goals that people have, but we were able to hit that by virtue of building this new community in a new way and with a new thinking. So lastly, I would just say that it's been sometimes asking me, well, who's on your green team? I mean, Nicole's one of my planning lead planners, but she's also got the other hat of doing the green team stuff, working with Matt here. But frankly, we don't have the resources in a small city to hire and have a lot of staff working full-time on green initiatives. So when people ask me, I'm like, well, the K4C is my green team. The Sustainable Roundtable is my green team. And so I really see that, as I think some of the other cities spoke to, it's that economies of scale that makes great sense too. And for that reason, I just want to, again, put a big shout out for all of your guys' persistence and leadership on this issue.
Great, thank you, Mayor.
He's the tallest mayor, too. So you heard that we have a couple of new members of the K4C, and so we're going to hear from them next. And so I'm very happy to welcome Bellevue Councilmember Lynne Robinson.
Good morning. I'm proud to say that we joined the K4C last year. We've not, however, signed the letter of commitment yet, and that's not because we're not committed to the K4C goals. is because we as a council are not yet educated. And I'll tell you one thing that our King County executive, Dow Constantine, does so well is to educate our elected officials so that we can make good decisions for our city. I think that's something we should all emulate by educating our residents, our community leaders, our city staff, and our elected officials, so that when we talk about encouraging decreased car trips, they know we're not talking about rationing. We're talking making good decisions that inherently reduce the amount of car trips that we take. And for Bellevue, that means providing transportation alternatives, increasing walkability and bikeability, building workforce housing, and transit-oriented development. The good news is that even before we signed on, the City of Bellevue have been taking great steps toward achieving K4C goals. And recently, we passed a budget that supports our environmental initiative, our stewardship initiative. We just completed Solarize East Side, where in 9 months we had 50 homes signed up for solar power. And we're competing for the Georgetown University Energy Prize. This is a 2-year competition against 50 cities nationwide to reduce as much residential energy as possible. Part of our strategy is to activate our youth through the Eastside Energy Corps program, which will create lifelong learning opportunities and a generational and cultural shift in how we view energy consumption and production. We're proud to be members of K4C, to be mentored and educated, and to participate in the K4C goals for decreasing greenhouse gas emissions. And hopefully, with help with our staff, like Paul Anderson, our council will be able to sign on to our commitment letter. Thank you.
And last but not least, we're happy to have a representative from the City of Berrien, Councilmember Nancy Tosta.
Thanks. I'm Nancy Tost. I'm actually Deputy Mayor of Berrien as of this past Monday evening. Berrien is a city of 50,000 people, which many people don't realize that it's no longer a small city, as Mayor Larson represents. We are one of the newest members of K4C, and similar to Bellevue, we're still dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but we're very proud to be amongst this elite group of incredibly important critical thinkers. My thanks to Dow and to our governor for lead, and to all of the agency leaders and other electeds, because I think this is what we do in the Pacific Northwest. We lead the nation in terms of thinking about sustainability and addressing the most critical issue facing us, climate change. In Berrien, we have a number of opportunities to do our part. We're working on what we want to be a very walkable community, bikeable community. If you've been in Berrien recently, you've seen our wonderful bike racks that we are putting up all over town. Someone asked me last night why our comp plan doesn't include requirements for bike racks like it might include requirements for parking spaces. And that I thought was an interesting observation by a community member. Community engagement, I think, is a very critical strategy to thinking about sustainability. It is a cumulative impact, again, as Mayor Larson described. And I'm personally very interested in working in my city on sustainable food systems. I think that's something that is going to get increasing attention over the years as to how we grow our food and where it comes from. We have been an active participant in the Solarize Southwest and are in the process of deploying a solar car charging station at City Hall. So I look forward to being a party to all the leadership that you are providing, and we are happy to be working with you. So thank you very much.
Wraps up our first part of the morning. I think many of you are doing a meeting in the meeting room next door in the next building. But if some of you want to take a look and see the pool here, and I know that we still have some of our parks folks who are here who can wait and see if anybody has any more questions about the pool and its operations or the data that's presented here in the panel. So we'll have some folks stand around and see if anybody wants to have any questions answered about that. So thank you all for joining us this morning.